Paul, Ederson has had a bit of a tough go of it the last month or two. Could Man City potentially just decide to cash out this January should Saudi interest continue to rise? Obviously, we know Ortega can step in and do a great job for them. And not that the season is lost by any means for Manchester City, but this isn't the Manchester City we're used to seeing.
No, he's not going to want to lose players though. He's the change and the unrest there. He needs to strengthen his squad and needs to bring players in. But we're seeing Manchester City and Pep in a situation that we're not used to seeing them in, and they're certainly not used to being in. And there's a lot of questions at the moment about Manchester City. But I think there's one thing that Pep will want to do. It's stability. He'll want to stabilise what he's got. He's the surprising thing for me. You asked me that question. The rotation of the goalkeepers. The way that he's rotated them of late. Edison's clearly been his number one for a long time, but Ortega's now coming in and out of the team. Edison's coming in and out of the team. Whether that's just a sign of at the moment he doesn't know which one is his number one clearly, but he's got two world-class goalkeepers there. He's not going to want to change now. I don't think Pep Guardiola will see beyond the end of this season now for his plans. We know he signed a contract and he's staying, but actually he needs short-term solutions, not long-term answers. And his short-term solutions are keep two of the best goalkeepers in the world. So I don't think we'll see any movement leaving Manchester City. He's going to want to. We know he likes working with a small squad, but I don't think we'll see a lot of players, if any, leaving Manchester City this window.
And Pete, we know we've talked about the fact that Manchester City want to replace Rodri, Ederson, Zubamendi. These are the names that have been linked with that position. But how about bringing in another forward? Erling Haaland hasn't quite been firing as of late, and he's the only true striker in the squad. You mentioned Kolo Muani before. Are there any other names that Man City might go out and add an attacker?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility they could look to bring in another attacker. Obviously, Haaland's form's dipped alongside Manchester City's. That's probably just a culmination of where City's sort of real poor form. They're not creating the chances for Erling Haaland. That's why he's not scoring goals. He relies on the ammunition from the likes of Manchester City's wingers and midfielders, and that's not really happening right now. So I'm sure Erling Haaland will bounce back, and if you do create chances for Haaland, we know he will stick the ball in the back of the net. They have got money still from the sale of Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid. It's just whether do you want to go to Man City and be number two? That's the hard job, trying to convince any potential transfer targets to make that move to the Etihad, because we know Haaland's going to be first choice. So if they did try and move for a Kolo Muani or whoever who might be available for that striking role, you're probably going to have to accept that you won't be first choice in that team. You'll only get your game when maybe Haaland's rested or is maybe injured, and that's the problem that Pep has probably got right now, is trying to envisage targets who are willing to play a rotation role in that side.
And Pete, there's no chance that Manchester City leave January without signing one singular player. If you had to name the one player they will definitely sign in January, who would that be?
Oh, I wish I knew. I'm sure Pep Guardiola would also like to know. Look, Manchester City normally don't really utilise the January transfer market. It's such a reactive market, whereas mainly loan deals rather than big money signings happen. We saw how quiet the 2024 January window was. Obviously, it's different circumstances now for Manchester City with their form and slipping down the table and losing so many games. Nobody could have envisaged that. I still think they need to do that, a midfielder, just to help the midfield. It's getting an old, aging midfield as well. I think Rodri, we know how important he is to Man City. We didn't know he was quite this important because they've had such a drop off in performances and results since his injury. Zubamendi would be the one, I think. He's got a release clause in his deal at Real Sociedad. Obviously, he was linked with a move to the Premier League in January or last summer. Rumours are suggesting that he would be open to a move to the Premier League come this January window. So he would be one where it could be done because he's got that release clause in his contract.